the Bears are now first overall on the clock again. And to discuss that subject matter in hour number 2 to kick things off from The Athletic covers the Bears, Kevin Fishbain joining us here on the Rich Eisen Show. How you doing, Kevin?
I'm good, Rich. How are you?
I'm doing very, very well. And I appreciate you joining us here because as you and I are conversing, the St. Brown Brothers podcast is coming out right now. It's just dropped when Justin Fields is, I guess, going to explain whether he unfollowed the Bears on social media and whether this is a bellwether or any sort of canary in a coal mine. What are your 2 cents on the Justin Fields-Bears relationship as you and I are talking right now, Kevin?
Rich, I'm trying to remember which journalism class we learned follow who players follow on Twitter and Instagram, and then go watch the podcast on YouTube of the teammate to figure it out. So you might find out before me what Justin Fields has to say about it.
Right.
Just the relationship in general. I mean, the Bears love Justin Fields. They do. He's been a leader. He's had a great work ethic. His teammates love him. The city adores him. They happen to have the number 1 pick in a historically great quarterback draft, for what they, the people a lot smarter than me who evaluate this stuff think so. So it's a weird position to be in. I do believe that if they're going to trade him, if they're going to move on, Ryan Poles is going to do so with a lot of respect, a lot of deference to Justin Fields, and make this as clean as possible. But look, if you're Justin Fields, you're probably sitting there being like, hey, I've given my all to this team for a couple of years. The record hasn't been great. The results haven't been great. And a lot of that wasn't my fault. But I don't sense any animosity between player and organization at this point.
Well, I mean, they handled it last year very upfront with Justin Fields, and does appear that they told him very early on in the process, you're good. We're good. And I'm wondering, what have they told him already about the process this year? Because clearly the quarterback class this year requires more due diligence than last year's, even though last year's wound up producing one of the greatest unicorns we've seen at quarterback in C.J. Stroud. We just didn't know that at the time last year. I'm sure he must have. But what's your reporting on what the Bears have communicated to Fields at this point in time?
Kind of knowing what we know about Ryan Poles, I'm guessing he's been really transparent, maybe more transparent than you would expect in a situation. They probably said to Justin, hey, we love what you've done. We are in this rare, unique situation, and we need to research everything. And when we decide on a direction to go, we'll let you know. It's interesting, Rich, too, because teams do this all the time at other positions, right? Like, we see a team move on from a veteran. Look, the Bears just cut Eddie Jackson last week. Obviously, that's a cap situation, and with his age and all that, and everything's different at quarterback. But this happens a lot. Obviously, when it's quarterback, when it's someone like Justin Fields, when it's the number 1 pick, when it could be Caleb Williams, everything is exponential. So knowing Ryan Poles and the relationship he has with Justin Fields, throw Matt Eberflus into that conversation as well, I expect that it's been probably very upfront. And once they decide what they're going to do, they're probably going to tell him and keep him in the loop. As you said, that's what they did last year. So I expect it to have been the same.
Kevin Fishbain here on the Rich Eisen Show. Walk me through your statement. You said moments ago that fans in Chicago love Justin Fields, and how you think that might be part of the equation here.
Yeah, well, for one thing, Poles can't let it be part of the equation. And he can't let DJ Moore's adoration for Justin Fields be part of it either. And he said that. But I do think, it has created this polarization in town. You have these Caleb Williams versus Justin Fields debates on the radio. Rich, they've been going on since October. Every day we've been talking about it here. And this is the situation the Panthers put the Bears in, put the city in. When the Bears moved up to draft him, I had not seen anything like that in Chicago in terms of excitement about something the Bears did on or off the field, really, since they traded for Jay Cutler. Look, when they traded for Jay Cutler, everyone was like, oh my God, the Bears finally have a quarterback. They moved up for Justin Fields. They said, we did it. This is it. This is our guy. Finally, homegrown, incredible player at Ohio State. And that was the big difference in Justin Fields, I think, and Mitch Trubisky, was Justin Fields was an incredible college football player. And there were a lot of questions about Mitch coming out about what he did in college. Chicago fans had watched Fields play at Ohio State. They thought that this was the steal of the draft. He comes in his first preseason game, and lit it up at Soldier Field. I mean, that place, I think it was the first time fans had been there in over a year or two because of the pandemic. So you just had this palpable sense. So all that has built up, and then we've all seen the flashes of brilliance that he's shown. So I think so many fans here, and you know this so well, Rich, Chicago is just so desperate to find that guy. And fans here so badly wanted it to be Justin Fields. And there's still some who believe he can be that guy if given the proper team, proper coordinator. So they love him. I think a lot of people have kind of come to terms with what is probably coming. But yeah, as far as the organization, they have to try to block that out and just figure out what is best for the team moving forward.
The Athletics' Kevin Fishbain covers the Bears right here on the Rich Eisen Show. And Kevin, we started this conversation with you saying, what journalism school did we learn to check on who a player follows on his social media or her social media, and then check on the podcast of his teammates as a comment, and that I would probably learn before you would because we're having a conversation. I have an earpiece in, and my crew, my producers are telling me that you are correct. I now know what Justin Fields told Equanimous St. Brown and Amon-Ra St. Brown on the St. Brown's podcast. He did, in fact, say he unfollowed the Bears on his social media, on his IG, but he also unfollowed the NFL as well because he wanted no NFL on his timeline while he was going on vacation because his timeline is filled with the conversation about what the Bears should do with the first overall selection. What's your thoughts upon me now informing you during this conversation, Kevin?
I love the breaking news. You've been doing this for a bit, Rich. You handled that smoothly.
Thank you, sir. Somewhat.
Yeah, that does it. Justin Fields, I mean, like horse blinders, right? I mean, he's just got to be just in it and not paying any attention. It's really interesting because last year he did the whole Super Bowl radio row car wash. He was there. He was very talkative.
He did our show. He did our show, and he was wide open about it. I can understand that, he just wouldn't want to go through it a second year, or this one's more real. You know what I mean? Like last year, he was in year 2, going into year 3. And, the conversation was, honestly, despite the way CJ Stroud played, let's recall, it was essentially at the Super Bowl last year, a conversation about Fields or Bryce Young. That was the conversation. Now it's Fields or Caleb Williams. And he's also 3 years in, 39 starts in, and there's a 5th-year option conversation that's going to have to come up, and that's expensive. And that's maybe a little bit more real with Justin Fields right now,
Yeah. Yeah, it's 100% it. I think he understands it. He gets it. He doesn't want to go through that, having to talk about it all the time. And I understand that if he wants to go on vacation, unplug, he doesn't want to have to see any of it. And look, I can barely put my phone away. I could barely stay off social media. So I can't imagine somebody, certainly in his generation, be able to just stay off it. So might as well just unfollow the Bears, unfollow the NFL. I remember, look, a couple of years ago, Dave Montgomery one day, like my phone's blowing up. Did you see Dave Montgomery unfollowed the Bears? And, we had to have a whole conversation with Dave Montgomery about that, the next day at Hallis Hall. This is the world we live in. But yeah, I think for Justin Fields, it's real. He gets it. He's understood this situation. He understood it's out of his hands. He was very open and showed a lot of great perspective at the end of the season. And as I said, a lot of things have not gone his way. Some of it has been out of his control. Some of it's been in his control, Rich. I mean, the fact of the matter is Justin Fields had a lot of opportunities late in games in the last 2 years to do what the CJ Strouds do, to do what Patrick Mahomes has done over and over again. And maybe it's a high bar, and maybe he didn't have the perfect team around him, but so rarely was he able to come through in those clutch situations. And I think that is a big reason we're having these conversations that we are, and the Bears are very open to moving on and picking a different quarterback, number 1.
We both went to Medill then, huh? Is it basically what you're saying? Are you a Medill guy, Kevin?
I am.
All right. I see your Northwestern hat on right now. I couldn't see it before. Okay. I see you. Okay. Very good. So what's your reporting on why the Bears stuck with Matt Eberflus with one of the most decorated coaching carousels spinning? What's your reporting there?
I think there's 2 things in play here, Rich. One, Ryan Poles and Matt Eberflus have a very good relationship. And new president Kevin Warren, there was this, we were all wondering here in Chicago, was Kevin Warren going to kind of make a power play? Was he going to say, look, I love Matt, and I see that you guys have a good rapport, and I see the defense has been growing, but this is a new era. I'm in charge now. We've got these guys available. Let's move on. But it seems like he certainly empowered Ryan Poles, and Ryan Poles has a lot of trust in Matt Eberflus, and that is a mutual trust. I think he really appreciated the way Eberflus, the way Poles said it, was captained the ship. So I think there's a bond there that's really strong. I think that they do really appreciate the way the defense played and the way that the culture has been built in the building. Now, I always think culture is a kind of a funny buzzword, Rich, when we talk about this stuff, because when you make the playoffs, you've got a great culture. So like if the Bears need to win, that's what they have to figure out. So you can say all you want about how great the culture is. You just got to win games. And I do think Matt Eberflus did enough down the stretch with his defense, with how he handled all the drama, to prove to Ryan Poles that he was the guy. And the thing is, look, I mean, we also can't ignore the fact this is a Bears organization that historically does not like change. We saw with Mark Trestman, they were not thrilled that they had to do that and move on after 2 years, but that was a mess. And then the John Fox, and then Matt Nagy, and now Matt Eberflus. This is an ownership group that wants to make it work. And I think that, I don't know if there was a fear of taking that big swing and sticking with the guy that and you feel comfortable with. But if that was involved, it wouldn't be the first time the Bears have done that.
Yeah, I mean, the Montez Sweat acquisition was a home run. I mean, he really helped solidify what was ascending, essentially, before his acquisition. And right around his acquisition is when the Bears defense is one of the best in the league, top 5, I think, in the last 2 months. And I guess you didn't want to upset that with Eberflus. And now you bring in Shane Waldron, and it looks like he's going to get handed the golden ticket here, because I'm assuming they do go ahead and take Caleb Williams. What's your best guess with what the Bears are going to do with that first overall pick as we're sitting here on the penultimate Wednesday of February, Kevin?
Yeah, I mean, my best guess is it's going to be Caleb Williams. I mean, everything everybody says. Just look at what Daniel Jeremiah has said about him the past couple of weeks. I mean, this guy just seems like, from a talent standpoint and the physical gifts, a no doubter. When I was down in the Senior Bowl, Rich, and I was talking to scouts and folks around the league, the phrase that they kept saying was, "You cannot pass on a talent like this. Like, he's just too good." Now, I'm keeping the door open. The combine's next week. The Bears are going to get an opportunity to sit down with Caleb Williams. And then they're going to certainly bring him into Hallis Hall. They're going to go see him. They're going to do their due diligence here. And I'm going to keep open the door that, maybe they think that a different quarterback is better suited for what they want to be. But right now, if they're picking number one, Caleb Williams seems to be the no doubt number one prospect, number one quarterback, not only in this class, but probably in recent classes. And it's hard to see the Bears. And you mentioned C.J. Stroud earlier and Bryce Young. The idea of the Bears passing on those guys and then passing on Caleb Williams is a wild thing to think about for a franchise that is so well known for its futility at the position. I mean, this is a golden opportunity for them to take this guy who is so gifted and pair him with DJ Moore, pair him with an offensive line that really hit its stride late in the season, that defense, and hope that they have the right pieces. They got a lot of cap space. They got the number 9 pick, and they can find a way to make it work.
Yeah, that number 9 pick in the aforementioned Daniel Jeremiah's mock draft, Roma Dunze. And I mean, like, what a home run if we get out of the top 9 and the Bears have Caleb Williams and Roma Dunze, and then potentially another draft choice later on that Friday night because of the Justin Fields trade that would no doubt have to happen. So you mentioned earlier, Kevin, that you think that Ryan Poles, the GM, would want to accommodate Justin Fields. Where do you think Justin Fields wants to go? He has to be, as he's unfollowing the Bears, thinking about this sort of thing right now,
Yeah, I'm sure he is. I guess when I said that, I do have to, it is a business too. So I think Poles would want to accommodate him as much as he can, but it has to be for a team that wants Justin Fields too. I don't know how many teams it's going to be, Rich. I mean, yes, there are a lot of teams that need a starting quarterback, but this is a very deep quarterback class. You've got the Kirk Cousins and Baker Mayfield situations as well to keep an eye on. I mean, Pittsburgh makes a lot of sense. I know it's a very un-Steelers thing to do, to make a move like that, but you think about the Arthur Smith offense and what that could look like with someone like Justin Fields, and that is a team that's built to win, and it's got a really strong infrastructure there around it. I know the Atlanta Falcons everybody connects the dots there. Hometown, needs a quarterback, great skill players. I just always wonder there, like, Terry Fontenot had his chance a couple of years ago and didn't take him. So what has Fields shown in the past 3 years to now, again, new head coach, different situation, desperate situation. I'm sure that owner might want them to take the Justin Fields. Is a great story in Atlanta, but that's a team. But outside those two, Rich, it's hard to really find a great fit. But I think if you're Justin Fields, you want to go somewhere where you can start, and you'd love to be with an offensive coordinator who you believe is going to fit that offense to you better than it was here in Chicago. And you look at Arthur Smith, you look at Zach Robinson, those guys make a lot of sense in that category.
Yeah, I guess the Raiders are out there as a possibility. The Patriots, if they want to indicate, hey, we're a new look organization, what way to basically say we're going to go get Justin Fields and throw Marvin Harrison on the mix third overall with him because they already have Fields in the fold. But part of the dot connecting for Fields to Atlanta isn't just, the fact that he's from Georgia and he played for a year at Georgia before transferring to the Ohio State, but also for somebody who doesn't want NFL on his timeline, he certainly follows the three most important weapons that he might be playing with in Atlanta. Still follows Pitts, Drake London, and Bijan Robinson, and that's part of the dot connecting, sir, right there.
I'm building my syllabus right now for my social media class I'll teach, and maybe Medill is watching this right now, Rich. And
I'm available.
I'm building this class out. The other thing about Atlanta, the GM who chose Justin Fields a few years ago, Ryan Pace, is in that Falcons front office. So again, another thing to consider when you think about Atlanta as a pretty interesting destination spot for Justin Fields.
Kevin, thanks for the time, sir. Enjoy the rest of your February. Let's connect as the draft season progresses. Appreciate it.
All right. Thanks, Rich. Take care.
You bet. That's Kevin Fishbain in his maiden voyage here on The Rich Eisen Show from The Athletic. Catch The Rich Eisen Show every single day on the Roku channel, 12 to 3 Eastern, for free.